Hi everyone! In this video, we'll go through graphing vertical and horizontal lines. Graph the equation by plotting points. X equals -5/2. To graph, we want to find inputs and outputs. In this case, our equation is solved for X. Our input will be Y, and the output will be X. So let's go ahead and pick a few inputs that we prefer. I always like to pick 0. It's my favorite. And then let's go ahead and pick -2, and how about +1? Now let's go ahead and input those, calculate, and solve for our output. Since there is no y in our equation, that means that I don't have to calculate anything, and my output for when I substitute -2 in will give us a -5/2. The same will happen when we substitute 0 in for y. Since there isn't a y, we'll still get -5/2 for the output, and same with +1. And you'll see that we end up with the exact same output for all of the x values. This leads us to graphing one of the vertical or horizontal lines. Let's go ahead and see which one ours is. So let's graph our first ordered pair of -5, -2. And because I'm going to be graphing in the halves, I'm going to go ahead and make my scale 2 of these units wide so that I can have a half which is directly in the middle of these two. So I'm going to go ahead and make our scale like this. And now we need to know where to go for our -5/2. So the first thing I'm going to do with that is change it from an improper fraction of 5/2 into a mixed number. So we'll take 5 and divide it by 2. 2 goes into 5 2 whole times. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract gives us 1. So we have a remainder of 1, and in writing that we'll do 1, the remainder, over the divisor. So we end up with -5/2 is the same as -2.5. So for each of our points, we will move to -2.5 for our x, and for our y, we'll go to what we picked for our input. So we'll start at the origin, and we always move in the direction of the x first. So we'll move 1, 2, and a half, which is why we gave ourselves a scale of 2 of those, because it makes it easier to find the half. And then we will move -2 from here. So we go down 1, 2, and here's our first point. Let's go ahead and graph our second point, which again will start at the origin, and we'll go over -2.5 in the x direction first, and then 0 for the y means we stay right here. And then for our last point, again, we'll move -2.5 and then up 1, so we go in the x direction, 1, 2.5, and then we move up 1 unit here, and we end up with all of our points all lined up in a vertical line. We'll go ahead and connect all of those, and we end up with a vertical line where x equals -5/2. And so if you end up with an equation where x equals a number, this means that we're dealing with a vertical line. We've now graphed our vertical line here on x equals -5/2, and now we're all done.